ever feel like some people just, I don't know, effortlessly get what they want?
Mm-hmm.
Like they're wielding some unseen force in every conversation,
Yeah.
while the rest of us just, well, hope for the best.
Yeah.
What if that force wasn't, magic, but actually a skill you could master?
It's so true. And in a world that often feels, well, chaotic, Tim Castle's The Art of Negotiation really shows that the real power isn't about being the loudest or the most aggressive person in the room.
Right.
It's much more about strategic clarity, deep empathy, and really understanding those subtle dynamics of influence.
Okay, welcome everyone to the deep dive. Today we're pulling back the curtain on Tim Castle's really powerful insights. And this isn't just about closing those, multi-million-dollar deals, right?
Not at all.
It's about mastering influence, persuasion, and agreement making in pretty much every part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today is to equip you with his proven strategies for negotiating like a pro.
Yeah.
Whether you're dealing with daily challenges, maybe leading a team, or aiming for that big career jump.
And we're going to try and uncover how to build that instant rapport, handle objections with a bit more grace, consistently create those win-win outcomes, and crucially communicate with real clarity and confidence.
Hmm.
So this deep dive, it'll explore the psychology behind effective negotiation. We'll get into emotional control in those high-pressure moments.
Well, that's a big one.
Huge. And reveal the maybe surprising power of tactical questioning and strategic silence, and even show you how to confidently turn a no into a potential yes.
Okay, let's dive right in then. Let's unpack Castle's sort of foundational idea. He makes this bold claim that negotiation isn't just for the boardroom or lawyers.
Right.
His claim, which might surprise some people, is you are always negotiating.
How does he frame that? That idea of constant negotiation for, the average person beyond the obvious stuff like buying a car.
Yeah, it's quite profound when you break it down. Castle argues that whether you're discussing, say, a promotion or buying that car, or even just deciding where to go for dinner with your family.
Yeah, that can be a tough one.
Right, you're engaging in a conversation of influence. Life itself, as he sees it, is this continuous negotiation, a constant sort of exchange of needs and desires.
Okay.
But what's often missed, and this is key, is why so many people shy away from it. He really points out that most folks avoid negotiation because, well, they see it as confrontational, maybe stressful.
Yeah, uncomfortable.
Exactly. Or they fear appearing, rude or greedy, or maybe just facing rejection. That fear of no.
And what's the cost of avoiding it? He seems to really stress that point.
Oh, he's incredibly direct about it. Castle calls this passivity a kind of hidden tax. It costs you not just money and time, but also peace of mind, your confidence, and just countless missed opportunities.
Wow.
He puts it bluntly, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. It's a really powerful kind of wake-up call to be more proactive.
That really shifts the whole perspective on what a great negotiator even is, doesn't it? He seems to want to debunk that myth that you're either born with this skill or you're not. Exactly. Castle is adamant.
Yeah.
Great negotiators are made, not born. It's not about being naturally extroverted or intimidating.
Right.
It's fundamentally about preparation, clarity, and crucially, your mindset.
Right.
And he's quite open about his own journey, He admits he wasn't naturally persuasive.
Oh, really?
Yeah. His own transformation through just deliberate practice, repetition, and commitment, that's his proof. He's basically saying, look, if I could learn this, anyone can.
So, okay, beyond just getting what you want in a specific situation, what's the deeper, maybe more personal benefit he sees in mastering negotiation?
He frames it beautifully as confidence in action. Every single time you calmly state your needs, or you prepare your case thoroughly, or even just summon the courage to ask for more, you're not just negotiating externally, you're actually building your inner strength. This skill empowers you, he argues, to navigate conflicts better, improve relationships, protect your boundaries, and make clear decisions, especially when the pressure's on. It's less about winning over others and maybe more about mastering yourself.
And before we even get to the tactics, Castle makes it crystal clear that the real game starts inside. Your mindset, your beliefs, that internal story you tell yourself, how do these set the stage for negotiation even before you say a word?
Yeah, your internal state is basically your external broadcast signal. If you're carrying doubt or fear, he explains, it seeps into your tone, your posture, how you hold eye contact.
People pick up on that, don't they?
Absolutely. Unconsciously. Your inner game dictates the energy you bring, and that energy, well, teaching others how to perceive you and how to treat you. He
Yeah.
boils this down to three sort of foundational pillars.
Okay, let's walk through those. The first one, self-belief. What's the core of that for Castle?
Self-belief is the absolute non-negotiable foundation. It's that deep-seated feeling, I deserve to be here, I deserve to ask. It's not about shouting the loudest, it's about being the clearest.
Okay.
It's this unshakable truth that has to come from within. If you don't genuinely believe in your right to be at that table and make your request, that hesitation, it'll be obvious.
And that seems tightly linked to the second pillar, confidence in your value. How does he differentiate that from just being arrogant? And why is showing your receipts, as he calls them, so important?
Yeah, great point. It's all about clarity, not arrogance.
Yeah.
You have to genuinely understand and then be able to articulate the specific value you bring and those receipts. That's the evidence.
Like proof.
Exactly. Your past results, your unique skills, the solutions you provide. People tend to mirror the belief you have in yourself. So if you sound unsure about your value, they'll definitely doubt it too. Negotiation really is a value exchange. If you can't clearly show your value, that exchange just stalls.
And then the third pillar, the one he says trips most people up, courage to ask for more. This is where he offers that surprising reframe for the word no.
This is so critical. Most people just stop dead when they hear no because they take it personally, like a rejection of them.
Yeah, it stings.
It does, but Castle completely flips that. For him, no isn't the end. It's actually the beginning of the real conversation. It's an invitation to dig deeper, to understand the reasons behind the no, the objections, the limits. Courage, he says, it's like a muscle.
You got to work it out.
Exactly. The more you use it, the more you simply ask, the stronger and more resilient it becomes. That's why his mantra, if you don't ask, the answer is always no, is so potent. It pushes you towards action instead of just staying passive.
So is this about just relentlessly chasing every opportunity, or is there a different kind of energy he suggests?
It's more subtle. It's about shifting from that scarcity mindset, what if I lose this, to an abundance mindset, that core belief that there's always another opportunity out there.
Right.
A strong negotiator with that mindset tends to attract opportunities rather than desperately chasing them. Your energy, everything from your body language, your tone, even how you breathe, communicates the self-belief. You teach people how to treat you by showing how you value yourself first.
How does he suggest we start building these habits? Especially that courage muscle, if it feels weak.
He's very practical. Start small. Begin with daily affirmations if that works for you, like I am powerful, I deserve this, and then actively practice asking for small things in everyday life.
Like what?
Maybe asking for a small discount, seeing if an upgrade is possible, requesting a slightly better table at a restaurant. Confidence isn't built in one huge leap, but in these consistent small wins. They prepare you mentally and emotionally for the bigger negotiations down the road. Your mindset truly is your ultimate edge.
Okay, so mindset is squared away, internal game strong. Where does Castle say the real work begins before the actual talk? He has that line, if you haven't prepared, you've already compromised. Why is preparation like strategic armor?
Oh, preparation is absolutely everything. It's what allows you to control the flow of the conversation, to anticipate the objections, and protect your leverage. You walk in strong, not just reacting. And central to this is what he calls the goal anchor principle.
The goal anchor principle. What does that mean for someone getting ready to negotiate?
It means having absolute clarity on three specific points. First, your ideal outcome, what you really want. Second, your minimum acceptable deal, what you'd settle for. And third, your walkaway point, the line you absolutely won't cross.
Okay.
This anchor guides every single decision you make during the negotiation. Without it, you're basically navigating flying rate, easily pulled off course by whatever the other side throws at you.
And it's not just about your own goals.
Yeah.
He talks about understanding the other side, strategic empathy, he calls it. How do you effectively figure out their motives before you even start talking?
Strategic empathy involves doing your homework, really digging into what the other side truly wants or needs. What are their fears? What deadlines are they facing? Are there internal pressures we don't see?
Right.
By mapping out their motivations, you can then tailor your proposal, your ask, to resonate more with their needs. This makes it much harder for them to just say no. It shifts the whole thing from feeling like a battle to more like collaborative problem solving.
And what about building your own leverage? Is that something you can actively create?
Absolutely. Leverage isn't usually something you just stumble upon. You build it strategically. It involves identifying what gives you strength in this specific situation. Is your unique expertise? Is there high demand for what you're offering? And critically, what are your alternatives if this deal doesn't work out?
Okay.
Leverage fundamentally is about having options. The more well-defined and, frankly, real your alternatives are, the more power you naturally bring to the table, and the more confident you'll feel in your position.
And practically speaking, he mentions preparing your opening lines and anticipating objections. For someone experienced, how does actually scripting and practicing these bits help take the fear out of it?
Well, those first few sentences you utter, they set the entire tone. Scripting and practicing them helps ensure you deliver them calmly, clearly, and with composure, even if you're nervous. Castle actually sees your first impression as a form of leverage itself. And anticipating objections. That's a powerful mental exercise. By listing out every possible reason they might push back and then crafting clear, confident responses in advance, you essentially disarm the element of surprise. You've already mentally rehearsed hearing every no, so when it happens for real, it feels like familiar territory, not a sudden crisis.
And maybe the ultimate prep tool he emphasizes, knowing your BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Why is that so critical, especially when the stakes are high?
Your BATNA is your safety net, plain and simple. It's the answer to the question, what will I do if this negotiation fails? Knowing this, really knowing it, empowers you to walk away from a bad deal from a position of strength, not desperation or fear. It's about understanding your true options outside of this specific deal, maybe even strengthening those alternatives beforehand, and being genuinely prepared to choose one if the current negotiation doesn't meet your essential needs. It fundamentally shifts the power balance in your favor.
He also recommends practicing mental rehearsal. How does visualizing success actually prime your mind and body for the real negotiation? Is that just positive thinking?
It's more than just wishful thinking. It's a recognized psychological tool. By vividly visualizing yourself being confident, handling pushback smoothly, maybe seeing yourself reaching that desired outcome, you're essentially running a simulation in your brain.
Like practice reps.
Exactly. It pre-primes your nervous system, which can lower anxiety, and it actually enhances your ability to perform well under pressure when the time comes. As Castle puts it, preparation doesn't guarantee the result, but it guarantees your power. Your aim should be to be the most prepared person in that room.
Okay, mindset aligned, preparation complete. Now we're in the actual conversation. Castle says, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you ask for with confidence. Asking as an act of leadership, what's the core idea there?
Asking confidently signals clarity and purpose. It shows you've done your homework, you know your worth, and you know what you're seeking. Vague goals, he warns, inevitably lead to vague asks. You need to be precise. I'm looking for an $85,000 base salary, or we need delivery confirmed by June 1st. That specificity doesn't just clarify things for you, it gives the other party something concrete to actually respond to rather than leaving them guessing.
And it's not just the words, it's the delivery, right? It really emphasizes tone. What's the difference in impact between using weak, sort of apologetic language versus confident framing?
Oh, the impact is huge. Weak openers like, would it be okay if sorry to bother you, but they unconsciously signal a lack of conviction. They basically invite doubt from the start.
Makes sense.
Whereas confident framing, like, what I'm looking for is, or based on the value I consistently bring, asserts your position with quiet authority. Your tone communicates your self-belief. If you sound unsure, people will naturally treat your request with less weight. It's about speaking with conviction, not just speaking the words.
Now, here's a tactic he mentions that sounds quite bold. Ask high, anchor strong.
Yeah.
How does setting your first proposal, maybe deliberately above your ideal outcome, actually influence the negotiation?
Yeah, this taps into a well-known psychological principle called anchoring. Often, the very first figure mentioned in a negotiation unconsciously sets the perceived range for the whole discussion.
Oh.
Okay, so by strategically setting your initial proposal a bit above your actual ideal outcome, you create more psychological room to negotiate. It increases the likelihood that the final agreement will land closer to what you truly want. It just sets a higher starting point, a higher baseline for the entire conversation that follows.
And this next point, it sounds incredibly simple, but I bet it's incredibly hard for many people. Shut up after the ask. What's the deep psychological leverage in just being silent after you've stated your request?
This is where so many negotiations falter, honestly. People feel deeply uncomfortable with silence, so they rush to fill it. And often, they end up talking themselves down from their position or giving away leverage unnecessarily.
Yeah, I can see that. Just keep talking.
Exactly.
No.
Castle's rule is transformative.
Yeah.
Make your clear ask and then stop talking. Just stop. That silence creates this subtle but powerful cognitive pressure on the other side.
How so?
It forces them to process your proposal. And often it compels them to respond first, revealing their immediate reaction, maybe their concerns, maybe even their limits, all without you having to push or probe further. It's a quiet way of asserting your comfort with your own value and your request.
And to make that ask even stronger, he suggests framing it as a win-win. How does shifting the narrative from just, here's what I want, here's how this benefits us both, change the dynamic?
It's about showing how your request connects to a larger shared goal or benefit. So instead of just saying, I want a higher rate, you might frame it as, based on the added responsibilities I've taken on and the positive results we've seen, adjusting my rate ensures I can remain fully focused on scaling those results for the company's growth.
Ah, okay, connecting it.
Precisely. It transforms your ask from sounding like a personal demand into a logical, mutually beneficial step. It connects your gain directly to their potential success or solves a problem for them. And here's where I think it gets really interesting. Castle argues, maybe counterintuitively, that the best negotiators actually talk less and listen more. Why does he believe the biggest breakthroughs come from what you hear?
That is counterintuitive. Most of us are so busy thinking about what we're going to say next. How does he suggest we actually listen to connect instead of just, waiting for our turn to jump back in?
He insists you have to consciously stop planning your next brilliant statement while the other person is talking. Give them your full, undivided attention. When someone feels genuinely heard and understood, their natural defenses tend to lower.
Makes sense.
And active listening. It uncovers the hidden motives, the unspoken concerns, the real pain points. It builds that crucial foundation of trust, which can really shift a negotiation from feeling like an adversarial fight to more of a collaborative problem-solving session. His line is great. The person who listens better wins better.
He also talks about mastering the strategic pause, or what he calls the silent close. What are the specific advantages of just saying nothing after you've made an important point?
This is a really potent, non-aggressive tactic. After you've stated something significant, maybe a key offer or a strong piece of evidence, just pause. Say nothing. This subtly gives you the upper hand because it invites, almost compels, the other party to speak first.
And that reveals.
It reveals their immediate thoughts, their gut reaction, maybe their counterproposal, without you needing to push. That silence forces them to engage directly with what you just put on the table. Often they'll reveal far more than they initially intended simply because they want to break that quiet.
And to guide that listening process, he recommends using open-ended questions. What kinds of questions are most effective for digging deeper and uncovering that hidden information?
Smart, open-ended questions are invaluable. Things like, help me understand, what's your biggest priority in this deal? Or, what would make this feel like a real win for you?
Not just yes, no.
Exactly. They move way beyond simple yes-no answers and encourage the other person to elaborate on their underlying interests, not just their surface-level positions. And just as important, he says, is listening for what's not being said. The pauses, the hesitations, the shifts in tone, the body language. The unsaid often carries way more weight than the words themselves.
Finally on this, he suggests using empathy as actual leverage, even borrowing ideas from FBI hostage negotiators. How does genuinely understanding what the other side cares about deeply help turn a potentially competitive situation into something more collaborative?
Empathy creates connection, and connection reduces friction. A really powerful line Castle recommends is simple. Help me understand what success looks like for you in this deal. It immediately shifts the focus towards mutual understanding.
Okay.
And those FBI-inspired tactics like mirroring, where you gently repeat the last few words they said, delivery speed, or labeling emotions, it sounds like you might be concerned about the risk involved. These techniques powerfully signal that you're actively listening and trying to process their perspective.
It shows you're tuned in.
Exactly. It diffuses tension, builds rapport, and often encourages them to reveal critical information. It helps turn potential confrontation into genuine collaboration.
Okay, so you've done all this hard work. You've prepped, you've asked boldly, you've listened like a hawk. And still, the answer comes back no.
Yeah.
This is the moment most people dread. But Tim Castle seems to completely reframe rejection. How does he turn no from being a dead end into a beginning?
Yeah, this is huge. For Castle, no is rarely personal. It's almost always just a placeholder for an underlying reason. Maybe it's a fear they have, a budget constraint, a misalignment of needs, or maybe they just need more information to feel comfortable.
So it's information.
Often, yes. He urges you to treat no not like hitting a brick wall, but like opening a window. It's a chance to peer inside and understand what truly matters to the other party, what their real concerns are, rather than just taking it as a final signal to give up.
And when you hear that no, he offers what he calls a transformative question. What is that question, and why is it so effective at shifting the conversation's direction?
Okay, so when you hear no, the key is to first pause, take a breath, don't react defensively, then ask calmly, what would need to change for this to become a yes? This question is incredibly powerful. It instantly shifts the dynamic away from confrontation and towards collaboration. It invites the other person to articulate their specific obstacles or concerns openly without feeling attacked. And crucially, it empowers them to help co-create a potential solution with you. It gently puts the ball back in their court, but as an invitation for dialogue, not a challenge.
He even suggests something called rejection reframing, where you actually see the no as making progress. Can you give an example of how an informed negotiator might apply that?
Sure. Let's say a client says, this price is just too high. Instead of immediately jumping to offer a discount, you reframe that no as a prompt for discovery. You might ask something like, okay, help me understand, is it the overall price that's the main concern, or perhaps the structure of the payment plan?
Getting specific.
Exactly. Or what kind of value or return would need to be clear for this investment level to make sense from your perspective? This surfaces the specific objections, allowing you to address the real issue rather than just guessing. And often a no on one point, like a fixed salary, reveals new avenues for leverage, right? It opens the door to exploring flexibility in benefits or remote work options or performance bonuses. Negotiation, as he shows, is rarely just about one single variable. And there's another layer, too. Every no that you face and you choose to stay engaged, stay curious, it makes you stronger. It genuinely builds emotional resilience and control. Your calm, composed reaction when faced with rejection. That signals professionalism and self-control, which, ironically, often strengthens your negotiating position.
Interesting.
Castle even suggests that sometimes you might strategically invite a strong no early on with a particularly bold initial offer. The goal isn't to fail, but to gain priceless insight into where their absolute hard line might be drawn. That information then guides your subsequent moves much more effectively. It's like running a controlled experiment to find the true boundaries.
This all seems to lead towards the ultimate goal, creating win-win agreements. He really insists that true sustainable success isn't about winning at someone else's expense, but about crafting agreements where everyone's key interests are satisfied. Moving beyond that zero-sum thinking, how do you actually expand the pie before you start dividing it?
The absolute key here is to identify underlying interests, not just stated positions. You have to dig beneath what people say they want, their position, to understand why they want it, their deeper interests and needs.
The why behind the what's.
Precisely. This deeper understanding very often uncovers shared goals or complementary needs that weren't obvious at first glance. And being transparent and honest, while, of course, still protecting your sensitive tactical information, builds trust and reduces suspicion. This can transform the negotiation from feeling like a contest into more of a joint effort to create maximum value together.
And what about being flexible and finding those win-win solutions? How does that work practically?
It means thinking creatively beyond just the main sticking point, which is often price. Could you incorporate different payment plans, performance incentives, extended warranties? He also talks about log rolling.
Log rolling.
Yeah, it's the practice of trading concessions on issues that have different levels of importance to each party. For example, maybe you value rapid delivery speed above all else, while the other party is much more concerned about having flexible payment terms.
Trade-off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By conceding on something that's less critical to you but highly valuable to them, and vice versa, both parties can actually improve their overall outcome compared to just fighting over one single issue. This effectively expands the pie by finding those points of mutual, though perhaps unequal, gain.
And finally, underpinning all of this, he really stresses fairness and ethics as being non-negotiable. Why is building and maintaining trust and integrity seen as the absolute bedrock of long-term negotiating power?
Because agreements that are perceived as fair are simply far more likely to be honored willingly and lead to positive, lasting partnerships. Castle is adamant. Trust and integrity aren't just nice-to-have ethical choices. They are fundamental strategic assets for sustained success.
Right.
Ethical behavior doesn't just preserve your reputation, which is crucial. It actively strengthens your negotiating power over time. It fosters enduring relationships built on mutual respect, reliability, and the belief that you operate in good faith.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive today. We've really navigated through Tim Castle's powerful insights from The Art of Negotiation. We went from those crucial mindset shifts, seeing negotiation as a life skill, really through the vital role of preparation.
Critical.
The art of making those bold asks, leveraging silence, learning how to confidently reframe rejection, and ultimately how to build those truly win-win agreements that are rooted in ethics and trust.
Yeah, and the core message here, I think, is really profound. This isn't just about closing deals or getting your way, it's deeper. It's about owning your worth, speaking your truth clearly, and developing the skills and confidence to never settle for less than what you genuinely deserve or need. Negotiation, viewed this way, is a fundamental life skill that consistently enhances your personal growth, strengthens your leadership abilities, and really amplifies your influence in, well, pretty much every part of your existence.
So as you reflect on everything we've covered today, here's a provocative thought from Tim Castle himself for you to perhaps mull over.
In every rejection lies a hidden opportunity. In every no, there's a pathway to yes for those willing to stay calm, stay curious, and stay committed.
Powerful. How will you approach your next no? Maybe take that deep breath, stand tall, and go forth. Start small, as Castle suggests. Practice in your daily interactions. Remember, every conversation is a chance to refine this superpower. You really are now equipped with the tools to navigate even tough negotiations with much more confidence and hopefully a bit